February 4, 2004. A Harvard sophomore named Mark Zuckerberg launches the Facebook from his dorm room. It's a simple website where Harvard students can create profiles, upload photos, and connect with classmates. Within 24 hours, 1,200 students have signed up. Within a month, half of Harvard's undergraduates are on it. Within a year, it's spreading to other universities. Within a decade, it will have 1 billion users. Within 2 decades, it will have fundamentally transformed how humanity communicates, how democracies function, how businesses operate, and how we understand ourselves. This is the story of social media, how it emerged from obscurity to dominate global communication, how it promised to connect humanity and instead often divided us, and how it became one of the most powerful forces shaping the 21st century. The Internet existed for decades before social media. ARPANET, the Internet's predecessor, connected computers in the 1960s. Email emerged in the 1970s. The World Wide Web launched in 1991, making the Internet accessible through browsers. But early Internet was mostly one-directional. You consumed content created by others. Websites were static pages. You read but rarely created. The seeds of social media were planted in the 1990s with forums, chatrooms, and bulletin board systems where people could interact. GeoCities, launched in 1994, let people create personal web pages. 6degrees.com, launched in 1997, is considered the first true social networking site. It allowed creating profiles, listing friends, and browsing friend networks. The name came from 6 degrees of separation, the theory that everyone is connected through 6 or fewer social connections. But 6 degrees was ahead of its time. Internet adoption was still limited. Dial-up connections were slow. Most people didn't have digital cameras for profile photos. The site attracted 3 million users but couldn't monetize them effectively. It shut down in 2001, just as the dot-com bubble burst and internet optimism crashed. Friendster launched in 2002 and seemed poised for success. It reached 3 million users within months, becoming the first mainstream social network. People created profiles, connected with friends, browsed networks, and discovered connections. It was addictive. Time magazine called it the coolest thing of 2003. But Friendster couldn't handle its success. The site slowed to a crawl as user numbers grew. Loading a page could take 20-40 seconds, an eternity online. Users grew frustrated. Meanwhile, the company refused acquisition offers from Google and others, convinced it could monetize independently. Bad technical decisions, poor user experience, and management problems created an opening for competitors. MySpace seized that opportunity. Launched in August 2003 by Tom Anderson and Chris DeWolf, MySpace learned from Friendster's mistakes. The site was faster, more customizable, and more permissive. Users could customize their profiles with HTML and CSS, creating unique pages with music, colors, and layouts. This attracted teenagers and young adults who wanted to express individuality. MySpace exploded. By 2005, it was the most visited website in America, surpassing Google. Musicians used MySpace to share their music and connect with fans. Arctic Monkeys and Lily Allen launched careers through MySpace. Teenagers spent hours customizing profiles, messaging friends, posting comments, and ranking their top 8 friends, a social hierarchy that caused actual drama. MySpace seemed unstoppable. News Corporation bought it in 2005 for $580 million, a huge sum that seemed vindicated as MySpace continued growing. By 2006, it had 100 million users. It was the dominant social network, the template others copied. But Facebook was coming. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't the first to create a social network, but he understood something crucial: exclusivity creates desire. The Facebook initially required a Harvard email address. This limitation made it desirable. You needed to be at Harvard to join. It was a closed club which made people want in. As Facebook expanded to other Ivy League schools, then top universities, then all universities, then high schools. Each expansion was controlled and deliberate. By the time Facebook opened to everyone in September 2006, it had built a reputation as the sophisticated, clean alternative to MySpace's cluttered chaos. Facebook's design was intentional. Profiles were standardized, no garish customization, no auto-playing music, no glittery graphics. Everything was clean, organized, and blue. Real names were required, unlike MySpace where pseudonyms were common. Facebook presented itself as mature and professional compared to MySpace's teenage aesthetic. The news feed, introduced in 2006, was revolutionary and controversial. Instead of manually visiting each friend's profile to see updates, Facebook aggregated everything into one constantly updating stream. Users initially revolted, feeling surveilled, their actions broadcast without consent, but they quickly became addicted. The news feed made Facebook irresistible, a constant stream of updates about friends' lives, optimized by algorithms to keep you engaged. Facebook introduced features that kept users hooked. The like button, launched in 2009, gave instant feedback and social validation. Photo tagging let you identify friends in pictures, generating notifications and pulling people back to the site. Apps and games like Farmville spread virally. Each feature was designed to increase engagement, time spent on site, and data collected. By 2008, Facebook had surpassed MySpace in user numbers. MySpace tried to compete but couldn't recover. Its site remained clunky, its brand associated with teenagers, while Facebook seemed sophisticated and adult. Businesses, professionals, and older users joined Facebook, not MySpace. By 2011, MySpace was irrelevant, a cautionary tale of how quickly internet dominance could evaporate. But Facebook wasn't the only social media platform rising. YouTube, launched in 2005, transformed video sharing. Before YouTube, uploading and sharing videos was technically difficult. YouTube made it simple: upload from your computer, paste a link, and anyone could watch. The first video, Me at the Zoo, showed co-founder Jawed Karim at the San Diego Zoo. It was mundane, just 18 seconds, but it demonstrated that anyone could broadcast to the world. YouTube exploded. Users uploaded everything: music videos, comedy sketches, how-to tutorials, vlogs, cat videos. Google acquired YouTube in 2006 for $1.65 billion, recognizing its potential. YouTube became the world's second-largest search engine after Google itself. It launched careers for creators like PewDiePie, Jenna Marbles, and countless others who built audiences in the millions. Twitter launched in 2006 with a simple concept: microblogging limited to 140 characters. Co-founders Jack Dorsey, Evan Williams, and Biz Stone created it as a way to share short status updates, what you're doing right now. The character limit forced brevity, making tweets quick to read and write. Twitter grew slowly initially, but found its moment during the 2007 South by Southwest Festival when usage exploded. Celebrities joined, finding they could bypass traditional media and communicate directly with fans. Politicians, journalists, and activists followed. Twitter became essential for real-time information during breaking news. The Arab Spring in 2011 seemed to vindicate Twitter's potential for positive social change. Protesters in Tunisia, Egypt, and elsewhere used Twitter and Facebook to organize demonstrations, share videos of government brutality, and coordinate actions. Authoritarian regimes couldn't control information flow. Social media appeared to be democratizing tools that empowered citizens against oppressive governments. But this optimism was naive. The same tools that helped activists also helped governments surveil dissidents. Fake accounts spread disinformation. The Arab Spring's initial promise largely failed to produce stable democracies. Social media wasn't inherently democratizing. It was a tool that could be used for good or ill. Instagram, launched in 2010 by Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, focused on photo sharing with filters that made amateur photos look professional. Instagram tapped into smartphone camera improvements and people's desire to share visual moments. It reached 1 million users in 2 months, 10 million in a year. Facebook acquired Instagram in 2012 for $1 billion, a staggering price for a company with 13 employees and no revenue, but a bargain in retrospect. Instagram now has over 1 billion users. Snapchat, launched in 2011, introduced disappearing messages. Photos and videos would vanish after viewing, appealing to young users who wanted communication without permanent records. Snapchat's ephemeral nature felt liberating. You could share silly moments without worrying about them haunting you forever. The app introduced features like stories, which Facebook and Instagram would later copy. These platforms shared common elements. They were free to use, monetized through advertising. They collected vast amounts of data about users, what you liked, who you knew, what you clicked, how long you looked at posts. This data let advertisers target ads with unprecedented precision. Social media companies became advertising giants, with Facebook and Google dominating digital advertising, capturing most revenue. The business model created perverse incentives. Platforms needed engagement, time spent on site to show more ads and collect more data. They optimized for engagement above all else. Algorithms learned that controversial, emotional, outrage-inducing content generated more engagement than boring factual information. Content that made you angry, afraid, or tribally defensive kept you scrolling. Nuance and complexity were boring and bad for engagement. This algorithmic amplification of extreme content had consequences. Political polarization increased. People existed in echo chambers, seeing content confirming their existing beliefs, rarely encountering opposing views. Conspiracy theories flourished. Misinformation spread faster than facts because false information was often more surprising and emotionally engaging than truth. The 2016 U.S. presidential election demonstrated social media's power and dangers. Russian operatives created fake accounts and pages, spreading divisive content designed to inflame tensions and undermine faith in democracy. They bought targeted ads for minimal cost, reaching millions. Some Americans unknowingly shared Russian propaganda, amplifying its reach. Facebook initially denied its platform had influenced the election, then admitted that 126 million Americans had been exposed to Russian content. The Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018 revealed how personal data could be harvested and weaponized. A researcher collected data from 50 million Facebook users through a personality quiz app, then shared it with Cambridge Analytica, which used it for political targeting. The scandal demonstrated how little control users had over their data and how platforms prioritized growth over privacy. Fake news became a crisis. Fabricated stories, Pope endorses Trump, Hillary Clinton runs child trafficking ring from pizza restaurant, spread virally because they were sensational and confirmed partisan biases. Traditional media's gatekeeping role had collapsed. Anyone could publish anything, and algorithms amplified whatever generated engagement, regardless of truth. Social media's impact on mental health, especially for young people, became increasingly concerning. Studies linked heavy social media use to depression, anxiety, and poor self-esteem. Instagram's highlight reel effect, where people posted only their best moments, created impossible standards and constant comparison. Cyberbullying became epidemic. The like and heart buttons created addiction to social validation. Facebook's internal research, leaked in 2021 by whistleblower Frances Haugen, revealed the company knew Instagram harmed teenage girls' mental health, but prioritized engagement over safety. The documents showed Facebook was aware its algorithms promoted divisive content, but wouldn't change them because reducing polarization would reduce engagement and profit. Social media's role in spreading vaccine misinformation during COVID-19 had deadly consequences. Anti-vaccine content flourished, convincing millions to refuse life-saving vaccines. Platforms tried to remove misinformation but struggled. Content was shared faster than moderators could review it, and defining misinformation was complex. Critics accused platforms of censorship. Public health officials accused them of enabling a deadly infodemic. The platform scale is staggering. Facebook has nearly 3 billion monthly active users, over a third of humanity. YouTube has 2.5 billion users. WhatsApp and Instagram each have over 2 billion. WeChat in China has over 1 billion. TikTok, the Chinese short video app launched internationally in 2017, exploded to over 1 billion users by 2021, especially popular with Generation Z. TikTok's algorithm is frighteningly effective. It learns your preferences with uncanny accuracy, showing you content you'll love even when you didn't know you wanted it. Users describe losing hours in the TikTok hole, scrolling endlessly through perfectly curated content. But TikTok's Chinese ownership raises security concerns. Could the Chinese government access user data or manipulate content? Social media has transformed multiple domains. Journalism changed fundamentally. Newspapers lost advertising revenue to Facebook and Google, decimating newsrooms. Journalists now must build personal brands on Twitter. News spreads on social platforms, but so does misinformation, with no way to distinguish them easily. Politics was revolutionized. Politicians communicate directly with constituents, bypassing traditional media. Grassroots organizing happens online, but foreign interference, disinformation campaigns, and algorithmic polarization threaten democracy itself. Election misinformation, from false claims about voter fraud to coordinated campaigns to suppress turnout, flourishes on social platforms. Social movements found powerful organizing tools. Me Too, which went viral in 2017, gave voice to sexual harassment and assault survivors, toppling powerful figures. Black Lives Matter organized protests after police killings, with videos of brutality spreading instantly. #Climate Strike mobilized youth activism. Social media enabled coordination at scale impossible before. But social media also enabled hate movements, conspiracy theories, and extremism. QAnon, the delusional conspiracy theory claiming Democrats ran child trafficking rings, spread primarily through Facebook groups and YouTube videos. White supremacists and far-right extremists recruited and organized online. The January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol was organized partly through social media, with participants live streaming their crimes. Business transformed. Influencer marketing became an industry. People with large followings could earn 6 or 7 figures promoting products. Brands spent billions on influencer partnerships. The creator economy emerged. YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers making livings from content, some becoming millionaires. But most creators earned little while platforms captured most value. Personal relationships changed. Dating shifted online, with Tinder launched 2012 and other apps reducing romance to swipes. Friendships migrated to group chats and social networks. But online connections sometimes replaced in-person interaction, with people together physically but separately absorbed in phones. Phubbing, phone snubbing, became a relationship problem. Privacy nearly disappeared. Every post like search and click was tracked, analyzed, and monetized. People willingly shared intimate details of their lives publicly. Location data revealed where you went. Photos revealed who you knew. This data was sold to advertisers, leaked in breaches, and sometimes accessed by governments without warrants. Social media created new anxieties and social norms. FOMO, fear of missing out, became common, fueled by seeing others' exciting lives. Performative activism emerged, posting about causes for social credit rather than genuine engagement. Cancel culture developed, online mobs demanding consequences for offensive statements or actions, sometimes proportionate, sometimes not. The platforms faced growing calls for regulation. Should they be liable for content users post? Should algorithms be transparent? Should they be broken up as monopolies? Different countries took different approaches. Europe's GDPR gave users data rights. China tightly controlled platforms, requiring censorship of politically sensitive content. America mostly let platforms self-regulate, with mixed results. Free speech versus safety became contentious. Platforms struggled to moderate billions of posts daily. They outsourced moderation to contractors paid poorly to view humanity's worst content: violence, child abuse, terrorism, causing psychological trauma. Automated moderation caught some problems but also made mistakes, removing legitimate content. Who should decide what's allowed? Platforms, governments, users. The techlash began around 2016 as optimism about social media's potential gave way to recognition of its harms. Former executives became critics. The Social Dilemma, a 2020 documentary featuring whistleblowers and engineers, depicted social media as deliberately addictive and socially corrosive. Books like 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts by Jaron Lanier argued the entire model was fundamentally flawed. Defenders argued social media enabled unprecedented connection, democratized information, and empowered marginalized voices. Before social media, media gatekeepers controlled public discourse. Now anyone could share their perspective. Social media helped lonely people find communities, gave activists organizing tools, and connected families across distances. But critics countered that social media's harms outweighed benefits. Democracy was undermined by misinformation and foreign interference. Mental health suffered, especially for youth. Privacy was eliminated. Addictive design exploited psychological vulnerabilities. Inequality increased as platforms captured economic value. Monopoly power stifled competition and innovation. The fundamental problem was the business model. Free services monetized through advertising required maximizing engagement, which meant algorithmic amplification of extreme content. Subscription models could change incentives but would exclude those who couldn't pay. Could social media exist without surveillance capitalism's logic? Alternative platforms emerged attempting different models. Mastodon offered decentralized social networking. Signal provided encrypted messaging. Substack let writers monetize directly through subscriptions, but these remained niche. The network effects keeping people on dominant platforms were powerful. Your friends were on Facebook, so you stayed on Facebook. COVID-19 accelerated social media's importance. With people isolated at home, social media became primary connection to the outside world. Zoom calls, FaceTime, and WhatsApp kept relationships alive. But screen time soared, with concerning effects on mental health, especially for children whose education moved online. Social media's future is uncertain. Regulation seems inevitable but will be contested. Breaking up big tech companies is discussed but complex. Changing business models away from advertising is difficult. Generative AI may transform content creation, making it impossible to distinguish human from synthetic content. The metaverse, persistent virtual worlds where people interact through avatars, is positioned by companies like Meta, Facebook's rebranding, as social media's next evolution. Whether people will embrace virtual reality social interaction or reject it as dystopian escapism remains to be seen. Social media has been perhaps the 21st century's most transformative technology. It promised to connect humanity, democratize information, and empower individuals. It delivered on some promises. People are more connected across distances than ever before. Marginalized voices can be heard. Movements can organize. But it also delivered unintended consequences: polarization, misinformation, mental health crises, privacy destruction, democratic erosion, and technology addiction. The utopian promise of the early internet, that connecting everyone would make the world better, proved naive. Connecting everyone meant connecting not just the best of humanity, but also the worst. The generation that grew up with social media, Millennials and Generation Z, can't remember a time without it. For them, Social media isn't a technology. It's an environment they inhabit, as natural as air. Their identities, relationships, and worldviews are shaped by social platforms in ways previous generations can barely understand. Yet many are questioning these platforms. Generation Z is leaving Facebook for TikTok or abandoning social media altogether, recognizing its toll on mental health. Digital detoxes and phone-free vacations are trendy. Books about reclaiming attention from technology become bestsellers. There's growing recognition that perhaps constant connectivity isn't healthy. Social media companies insist they're neutral platforms, not publishers, merely hosting content others create. But their algorithms choose what billions see, shaping perceptions of reality. They're not neutral. They're among the most powerful editors in human history, determining what information reaches whom. The COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 U.S. election, climate change debates, vaccine misinformation, social media played central roles in each. It's no longer possible to understand contemporary events without understanding how social media shaped them. Social media isn't separate from life. It's woven into the fabric of modern existence. From Mark Zuckerberg's Harvard dorm room to an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars and shaping billions of lives, social media's rise has been swift and consequential. Whether we're living through a transformation comparable to the printing press, democratizing information and empowering individuals, or creating something more dystopian, addictive, exploitative, and socially corrosive, remains to be seen. What's certain is that social media has fundamentally altered human communication, relationships, politics, business, and culture. We're social creatures who evolved in small tribes, and suddenly we're connected to billions, with algorithms determining what we see and feel. We're conducting a massive, uncontrolled experiment on humanity, and we don't know the outcome. The first generation to grow up entirely in the social media age is now entering adulthood. What they make of the world social media created, whether they build something better or double down on current models, will determine whether social media's rise is remembered as humanity's greatest connection tool or its most destructive distraction. The story is far from over. In fact, it's just beginning.